Hi, I'm Maya, and today I want to talk about some books that I recently read, the book that I'm currently reading, and the book that's on my to-be-read list. So, one book that I read recently is The Book Eaters by Sunyi Dean. This book, I adored the concept. Like, the whole premise was amazing, and I loved the world building. Basically, there are a race of people that are kind of like vampires, except they eat books. They have special book teeth that allows them to eat books. They are like super strong, and the cold doesn't affect them, and they don't make sound when they move. And like, they're just a really cool race of people, and like, their society is so interesting. It's a patriarchal society, and there's these families, and there are just a lot of really cool ideas in this book. Unfortunately, I feel like it didn't really execute them as well as I would have liked. I still had a good time reading it, but I was a little disappointed in the ending. I thought this was going to be like a full-on anti-fairy tale, like pointing out everything that's wrong with classic fairy tales and just turning old fairy tale tropes on their head. But instead, it was kind of just like the basic happy ending that you would expect in a fairy tale, except for one sad thing. And it's like, I kind of wish everything had been happy, including that one sad thing, or everything had been horrible and like nothing had worked out the way it was supposed to, and then it could have felt more like a statement, or at least something new that we hadn't seen before. I don't know. Those are just my personal feelings about the book. I still loved reading it. I still think it's a really cool idea, and I would love to see more books. I'm pretty sure this is just a standalone, but I think it could be really cool to just delve even deeper into the world, because I have so many questions about this society and how these people live and like how everything works. So I would love to see more. We're probably not going to see more, but still a fun book, just not one of my absolute favorites. Another book that I read recently is The Tenant of Wildfell Hall by Anne Bronte. So, not to be mean to Anne, no offense to Anne, sure, she was a lovely woman. I just don't think she was as good a writer as her sisters. I think Emily and Charlotte just blow her out of the water, and I'm very sorry. That's just how I feel, because Wuthering Heights is top tier for me. It's like one of the best books I've ever read, and it grabs you from the beginning, and it has such good pacing. Jane Eyre has a slow start. For me, it was really hard to get into, but once I got into it, it was amazing, and the payoff was so worth all of the trudging I felt like I was doing in the beginning. But with this book, Tenant of Wildfell Hall, I kind of felt like it could have just been 200 pages shorter, and I don't feel like it had the payoff at the end the way that Jane Eyre does. And so I just feel like I was like slogging through this. I felt like I was just forcing myself to get through it, and it just felt very repetitive. It was just hard for me to really get into it. Now, the main character, Helen Graham, I love her. I think she's a very cool character. I love her strength and her resilience and her integrity. I think she's a wonderful role model. I love how she raises her son. I love her feminist values. I love her as a character. I just feel like I wish more had been done with her. I wish the story had been more exciting. The premise is she's on the run from her brute husband. She takes the kid and runs, and then she's living in hiding under a fake name and all this stuff. And in the end, she falls in love with another man, and I just wish that he'd been a different sort of guy. I feel like I couldn't really get behind them as a couple because he was rude and violent, and I just feel like he wasn't even that much better than the guy that she left in the first place. Like, obviously he didn't have the same vices and issues that the other guy had, but I feel like he could have been better. I feel like Helen deserves better after all the crap she's been through. So I kind of wish she had just ended up alone. I kind of wish she had just ended the book without any man, that she hadn't fallen in love again. But I don't know. I do admire how Anne ties up loose ends. Like, I think Anne Bronte did a really good job in this book of, like, at the end just telling you everything that happened to all of the characters, even the little minor side characters. Like, we learn what happens to them. We learn about the villains who didn't learn their lessons and the villains who did and who grew and became better people, and we learn about the nice people and who they marry and who they end up with and how their lives go forth. And I think that's really cool. I think that's fun. I think in like a lot of other books that I've read, a lot of other classics, when I read them, I'm left wanting more. I'm left wanting, oh, I wonder what happened to so-and-so. I wonder, how that all worked out. So I love that she did that. But I didn't love her new love interest, and I just feel like it was very, very slow and had a lot of extra information that we didn't need. I think it's still worth the read because there are some sections and quotes that are very beautiful, and like it's just a good way to think about life. Like she makes some really good points, like I said before, about feminism. I also loved all of the religious discussions. I feel like those were very beautifully worded. Helen Graham, the main character, has an amazing understanding of the Bible, and she expounds on the ideas in the Bible. She just has some really wonderful discussions about doctrine. That's really cool to read. I love the religion stuff. I love the women's rights stuff. I love the examination of how boys are raised versus how girls are raised, and I think all of that stuff is really cool, and I think they're explored in a really cool way. I don't think the execution was as masterful as other classics I've read, especially when compared to Anne Bronte's sisters. So yeah, overall, a good book, just I wasn't in love with it. Okay, and the book that I'm currently reading is Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier. This book is so much fun, especially because I started it right after finishing The Tenant of Wildfell Hall, and just it's night and day, the pacing. Like I said before, Tenant of Wildfell Hall is kind of slow, but this book is just like super fast and like so exciting, and it's spooky and it's spicy and it's really fun. And coincidentally, it has a Bronte connection. It's kind of like a retelling, a reimagination of Jane Eyre. Basically, this woman marries this man, she goes to live with him in his country estate, and she realizes that the house is haunted by her husband's first wife. So it's really, really fun. Like, I'm really, really enjoying it. I can't wait to finish it and see what happens. It's just, yeah, fun is like the first word I think of when I think of this book. It's a great time reading it so far. I mean, I might not like the ending, who knows, but so far I'm loving it. It's a nice, fun, quick read. Gothic, mysterious, moody. I'm hoping that it has a good ending. So yeah, that's Rebecca. And the book that is on my to-be-read list, the book that I'm planning on reading after I finish Rebecca, is Swordcatcher by Cassandra Clare. I am a big fan of Cassandra Clare, have been for years. I've read all of her Shadowhunter books. This book is not connected to her Shadowhunter books at all. It's a completely new series, and so I really don't know what to expect. I just know it's going to be good because Cassie is good. Like, I love everything she writes. So I'm super excited to read it. It's big. All I know is that it's a fantasy book. I don't think it's medieval. I think it's like 1800s type setting, maybe. I'm just guessing from like the map, like the architecture. So yeah, I really don't know. And I kind of don't want to know. I kind of don't want to know exactly what it's about. I kind of just want to go in blind and just enjoy it. Just dive into this new world that Cassie has created because she is such a good writer. So those are the books that I've read recently, that I'm currently reading, and I'm going to read soon. So yeah, I would love to hear what you're currently reading or what you've read recently or what you plan to read soon. I'm always looking for recommendations for good books, so feel free to list any of those things in the comments. Say what you're reading, what you're going to read, what you have read, or just general good books that you would recommend. Yeah, so thank you so much for watching.